What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? What is going on, Jayhawk Nation? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy, and we are unofficially kicking off the Kansas Jayhawks basketball season with Late Night in the Fog. And as far as I can remember, Late Night in the Fog is a great experience for fans, alumni, and students to come out and see the basketball team in a scrimmage. In years past, and really my experience with Late Night in the Fog, there has been an absolute insane environment. And in years past, you would often have a performer sing music and all kinds of things. Obviously, that's changed, and really kind of the dynamic of what Late Night in the Fog truly represented has really changed. Before, in years past, Late Night in the Fog was an opportunity for recruits to really come in and just see what the Kansas program was all about. It was often a weekend event. And since the dynamic of really what recruiting is all about with NIL and all of that, really the Late Night in the Fog has completely changed. But that doesn't change our motivation and excitement for this Kansas basketball team. As Jayhawk fans, we always have high expectations for this program. It's exciting to see. I'm sure the players will tell you it was nice to really get in front of a crowd. And for some of these players, it's new. It's an introduction to the greatest environment in college basketball. Now, we're going to jump in and we're going to start to really kind of get into some, I would say, history just a little bit. But then we're going to kind of start covering what this current team is shaping up to look like. And I'm excited. I really think Bill Self has gone back. He's readjusted his staff. He's brought in guys like Jock Vaughn and a ton of others. Jeremy Case is getting a promotion. There's a lot of things that are going on with this Kansas basketball program in a positive way. They've really kind of changed their recruiting dynamic. They're really looking at really making this team back to the powerhouse that us Kansas Jayhawks fans and really college basketball across the board is used to seeing. So we're going to really dive in. Now, Kansas basketball is ranked 18th in the preseason poll. I do want to emphasize this is the 34th consecutive preseason ranking, which is one of the most consistent programs in history. But the biggest thing is this team might be one of the most dangerous squads in the country. We're really going to talk about that. And obviously, in years past, we've got the preseason #1 ranking. Guys, I'm excited just to be preseason 19. Let's fly under the radar. Let's get this team really kind of building momentum and work their way up instead of having to really kind of stand up for that #1 ranking. I'm okay with where we're at. And I'll be curious to let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of that preseason ranking. Now, again, like I said, we're going to be breaking down why this roster is absolutely loaded with potential, who the breakout stars could be, and why KU might shock the college basketball world, as we're all hoping they will. Now, KU in 2025-2026 season after an underwhelming few years. And we're going to talk about those few years. And that's what I mean kind of historical. When they started high but just really didn't finish strong. And I want to emphasize, the Big 12 from a basketball perspective has added some basketball programs that are really, really solid. That also goes with the teams that have been in the Big 12 for a while. The programs are just getting better. And the reason is because of NIL. You can go out and you can pay players to come to your program. That's why we're seeing teams like BYU being consistent, Houston being consistent, Baylor, the list goes on and on, Texas Tech. I mean, we could honestly talk about a lot of these teams within the Big 12. Iowa State, I don't want to obviously forget a powerhouse in Iowa State. There's just a lot of good programs in this Big 12, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So in the 2023-2024 season, the Jayhawks would finish the season 23-11. Again, that's underwhelming for us Kansas fans. They would finish 10-8 in the Big 12 and would finish 5th overall in the Big 12. That's just not what we're used to as fans. We're used to the Kansas program winning the Big 12 year after year. And that's kind of a statement that Bill Self had. I mean, it was a huge statement to the fact that you could expect this Kansas program to put a product out there that would win the Big 12 and really just dominate. And so these last 2 years, and we're going to kind of get in a little bit more, it just really was underwhelming. I don't know, again, if that's just how the him adapting to the NIL and having to really kind of get the players to fit his style, but also at the same time, you have to be able to pay those players. There's just a lot that goes into it, and I think Bill Self himself would admit he had to make some adjustments. So continuing on with that 2023-2024 season, they averaged 75.6 points per game, ranking them 112th out of 362 teams, and they would average 69.9 points allowed per game, ranking them 107th out of 362. So really almost dead smack in the middle in both of those categories. Now the next year would almost probably be worse in my opinion, and it really didn't improve a whole lot. So in the 2024-2025 season, the Jayhawks would finish the season 21-13. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a fan since I was a kid. And honestly, I've gone through the Roy Williams era and I've gone through the entire Bill Self era. This was one of the worst seasons, just in my opinion, record-wise, that I can honestly recall in a long, long time, especially in the Bill Self era. It just did not ever feel like we cohesively came together as a team, and there were injuries we were dealing with. There were constantly kind of question marks around depth, and I would say Bill Self even kind of addressed that in his press conference.
Well, I think this team's, I want to say better, but this team is equipped to be better than last year's team was, for sure. Nothing against last year's team, but this team's more athletic and we're a little bit deeper. And we have a guy that any given night, hopefully he can run bad offense and come away with points still. And we didn't have that as much last year as what I hope that we have this year. But the bottom line is we're a better team. The preseason, we knew we weren't preseason one last year when that came out. I mean, now, did we play to that level? We did a couple of times. I mean, beating Duke and we had some other good performances, but that wasn't a team that could sustain it athletically just because we didn't have the same bodies as maybe some years past. But whether or not we can get to that level remains to be seen this year, but it doesn't bother me at all what preseason is. It wouldn't turn me on or turn me off one way or another. But I do know that there's a lot of good teams out there on our schedule, and we're going to have to play to a top 5, top 10 type level in order to compete with the best teams on our schedule for sure.
So continuing on with that, obviously 21-13, they would finish 11-9 in the Big 12 and would finish 6th overall in the Big 12. Again, very underwhelming for this Kansas program. They averaged 76.1 points per game, ranking them 113 out of 364. So 2 more teams would be added to the Division I basketball league, and they would average 69.6 points allowed per game, ranking them 364. So I think one of the big things we're really going to emphasize here is that 6 Big 12 teams are in the top 25 in the preseason rankings. So the Big 12, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a gauntlet. And ladies and gentlemen, this schedule that the Kansas Jayhawks are going to roll out this year is going to be a challenge. There are some very good programs, teams like UConn, Duke, North Carolina, and some of those games are very early in this season. We also play teams like Missouri, who we lost to last year on the road. And so it's going to be interesting to see in a neutral environment in Kansas City, those 2 teams going to battle. It's just going to be a great season. Now, obviously, we highlighted some of the Big 12 teams that they'll be facing, like Houston, BYU, who has an absolute insane freshman. With Darren Peterson, obviously, those 2 duked it out quite a bit in summer basketball, the AAU programs, and all kinds of different things. Arizona, Iowa State, I mean, the list goes on and on. We could talk Baylor. We could talk about Texas Tech. I mean, honestly, the Big 12 is an absolute loaded conference. And that's one of the biggest things that we can talk about. Is the Big 12 is a gauntlet, and we talked about that. In a market that never sleeps, one name rises above the rest. Lisa Miller from Dan Lynch Real Estate, trusted by hundreds and recognized across the Midwest. She delivers results when it matters the most. With over 13 years of experience and licenses in both Kansas and Missouri, Lisa isn't just selling houses. She's helping you find a place to call home. Whether you are a first-time homebuyer, looking to upsize, or selling your current home, Lisa makes the process smooth and stress-free. As a local expert passionate about building lasting relationships, she ensures her clients feel confident and satisfied every step of the way. Don't wait, your perfect home is just a call away. Contact Lisa today at 913-546 or 913-000 or visit lisamillersaleskc.com. But Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate help you start your next exciting chapter. And let her know the Beat of KC, Lucas Murphy, sent you her way. Now we're going to talk about some of the headliners of this roster. Ladies and gentlemen, Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson. I mean, if you have not figured out who Darren Peterson is as a Kansas fan, I'm questioning your fandom. I mean, I really am. Darren Peterson is that dude. He is the guy. He is going to be an absolute stud. Bill Self really talked about him in his press conference. They asked him, what makes him different? They've asked multiple players, what stands out to you about Darren Peterson? The biggest thing that Bill Self said about Darren Peterson is that the game to him is slowed down. Typically, freshmen come in, they may show out in practice and in a game or a scrimmage similar to what Late Night in the Fog is going to present, they might excel. But when the game time, when the lights really hit that court, sometimes the game is just really sped up. It's fast and it's hard to really grasp. With Darren Peterson, the game is just slowed down. He treats it like he was here for 4 years. He's treating it like he's been in the game forever, which he has. But college basketball is just a different environment, and it's just because he's had so much experience with competitive players through his entire career. He puts in the effort. That's one of the biggest things the players talked about too, is the guy's constantly in the gym. He's constantly putting in the work. He's focusing on his craft, and that's the biggest thing. He is a top-ranked freshman, and seriously, he's been projected to be in the NBA lottery pick in 2026. I've seen him as high as 1. I've seen him obviously in that lottery area as well. He is expected to be KU's offensive centerpiece right away. I would expect him to literally go out there and just ball out, ladies and gentlemen. Darren Peterson is that dude. He was picked to be the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. So not only has he got a lot of expectations on him, but the accolades are already coming with him as well. Now, really kind of talking about some of the returning core. One of the ones that I'm excited to kind of see is Elmarko Jackson. Obviously he came in as a freshman. He's probably one you could really identify as one where the game was a little bit sped up. He didn't really perform to the standard that a lot of people had expectations on. Then he sustained an injury and he was out for a year, so he is a redshirt sophomore. I think what he's going to provide is really experience because he's been with the program for multiple years. He's going to have that leadership at the guard position. He's really had the opportunity to learn from really one of the greatest guards to ever come through Kansas, and that's DeJuan Harris. So he's had opportunities to really step up and learn that leadership. Jamari McDowell is another one. I think he's going to be a steady role player. I think he'll fill a pretty solid role off the bench. He should be able to really kind of step up and start to provide some of that depth that we've been lacking the last few years. Again, in his case, staying healthy and being able to continually learn. And one of the big ones, ladies and gentlemen, is Flory Badunga. I mean, holy smokes. Flory is an athletic big with the NBA potential as well. He's going to be an interior anchor. And once again, you're talking about another potential lottery pick in the NBA. And Bill Self really talked about him in his press conference, saying Flory's really kind of expanded his game out to the perimeter. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be shooting a ton of threes, but what he's creating is a lot more speed. He's being able to break off of picks. He's able to, if defenders are putting in picks, he's able to break off of those picks and really stick with his defender. And so he's got a lot more agility, a lot more quickness. And Flory, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be an absolute stud for this basketball program. I'm excited for him. Now, obviously, transfers. Transfers is a big one nowadays when you're talking about college basketball. And ladies and gentlemen, I know that I'm super excited for this individual. Even though he's not a transfer, we'll add new additions to this category as well, and that's Cole Rosario. Again, another player that I think is going to be held to a high standard. He's kind of an under-the-radar freshman who really could surprise this year, and I'm really expecting kind of a lot from Cole. I do. He's a bigger guy, just goes after it. One of the things Bill talked about in his press conference about Cole is that if he assigns him a task, Cole is going to focus so hard on that task. He's going to really work on that craft to perfect it. And that's the thing, is he's going to really kind of become a huge piece for this Kansas basketball program. Now, the question is, does Cole crack that starting lineup, or is he going to be a huge piece off the bench? We'll have to wait and see. Now, really kind of talking about some transfers. Melvin Council Jr., Jaden Dawson, and Trey White. Trey White, ladies and gentlemen, I think can really provide you some of that veteran presence, that scoring punch, as well as Jaden Dawson and Melvin Council Jr. I really think that they're going to kind of solidify and really kind of aid in resurging this kind of Kansas basketball program. And then you got guys that are really kind of coming through the developmental stages of this program. You got guys like Paul Mbaya, who came in, Bryson Tiller, who really kind of has sustained some injuries and just has not been able to get on the court. He really could get some minutes as a backup big. Samus Calderon, Corbin Allen, some developmental depth. I really think that there's a lot to provide with those guys. Corbin Allen, it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of provides some depth if he's able to get on the court. I think that's just the biggest thing I really want to focus on is the fact that this basketball program actually has depth. And they're going to be able to go to guys if foul trouble occurs and injury occurs, where in years, especially the last 2 years, there just hasn't been so much of that opportunity. Now, really kind of some strengths and potential of this lineup. I think the fact that you have depth, we talked about that. So we've checked that off the box. The biggest thing is athleticism across all positions. You really have checked that box as well. You're having the ability to play defense in a solid way, which is a Bill Self. Like, that's one of the premier things that Bill Self is known for, is his teams playing good defense. And I think the fact that you're blending that with youth, so you're adding Peterson, you're adding Rosario, Bedunga is still considered a younger player, and you're obviously adding the depth and the experience with those transfers. So you're really meshing the two together, and you're creating a solid basketball program. Now, Bill Self's track record of getting young talent to buy in defensively, I think that's one of the most important things. You see teams where you often don't see the defense. It's often drive down, shoot. You don't necessarily see guys run plays. That's what Bill Self's program is about, being able to really play defense, run through your guards, go to your big man and score points, as well as, being able to hit the three is going to be one of the most important things. That's what really kind of, I feel like last year and the year before, we were really kind of handicapped, because the thing is we really relied heavily on Hunter Dickinson and how his style of play had to fit into this program. That's out the door. He's gone, ladies and gentlemen. Now you're able to really kind of have all of this experience with the youth, and you're going to be able to kind of have it spread out. It's not going to really focus on one person. Now, the team's ceiling could easily exceed the number 19 ranking that they were provided in the preseason. And I think really that's going to be the biggest thing, is that how this team is going to be able to respond to this challenging schedule that they've been provided. So some questions I have. Can this freshman, that is Darren Peterson, lead a blue blood team right away? I 100% agree and think he will be able to, because I think that's just the type of DNA that, Darren Peterson has. The chemistry is the biggest thing. I think chemistry is lacking the last few years. There really wasn't a whole lot of chemistry. I think that's present now with this team. I think there's so much youth with adding also this veteran presence of all these transfers, plus the guys that have been on the team for a while. I think you're really going to see some chemistry. And you're going to see a lot of this team coming together. There are 8 newcomers, which means a lot of lineup experimentation early on. So I don't expect Bill Self to have a true starting lineup right away. He's going to test things out, and that's kind of how Bill functions anyways. Surviving the Big 12 schedule, that's going to be one of the most important things. We've hit on it 3 times now. The gauntlet that the Big 12 provides. It's going to be a tough challenge, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. There's a lot of very talented, very good programs in this Big 12 conference. And then also you're having to replace guys like DeJuan Harris Jr., KJ Adams, and obviously Hunter Dickinson. And I think, honestly, they're easily going to be able to do that. I think one of the hardest things you're going to be able to replace is KJ Adams' motor and his commitment to this program. One of the big things is KJ is still a part of this staff. So I think he'll still be able to instill some of what he learned while he was at Kansas with some of these young guys, especially if they start to experience some challenges. Now, why are they being underrated? I think really there's just a lot of question marks. A lot of those veteran guys we just talked about, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and Hunter Dickinson, are no longer with this team. So really, I think there's a lot of questions around how this team's going to be. You're bringing in transfers that, how are they going to mesh into the program? We saw guys like AJ Storr who transferred in. The hype was insane for AJ Storr, but he never truly came to fruition when he transferred in from Wisconsin. Now he's with Ole Miss. So it's just going to be interesting to see, can the transfers who we went out and sought after really kind of become a true cohesive unit with this Kansas basketball program? I think there is some national media fatigue. You know, Kansas has always kind of been a top tier program, and I think some of the national media kind of have fatigued on this team, and especially after some of the early exits and really kind of how the last 2 seasons have gone. I think really what they're overlooking is the fact that how much talent Phil Self has gone out and actually added to this program. And so again, there's a lot of question marks around that. Are they going to be able to cohesively come together, and are they going to be able to play as a unit? And the final 2 things is, if this group clicks by February, the biggest thing is look out, ladies and gentlemen. If they're rolling, if they're playing like a unit, you got guys like Darren Peterson and all of the other guys we've listed, and they're playing at a high level, this team is going to be a tough challenge for all of those teams. Even though we talked about how difficult it's going to be, they're going to be a hard team to really compete against. And if you really compare this to the past KU teams, they started lower, but they finished strong. And that's one of the biggest things. Are they going to be able to finish strong? Are they going to be able to finish out this season the way we anticipate with a lot of these guys? So my bold prediction, and obviously it could change, but my bold prediction is KU finishes in the top 4 nationally by March. Guys like Flory Badunga and Darren Peterson will be all Big 12 caliber players. I think there will be obviously a few more, but those are really my focus. I think Flory and Darren will really have phenomenal years, especially this year. And I think that they are going to really lead this Kansas basketball program in the right direction, back to what us KU fans are used to seeing. Let me know down in the comments section what you guys think of this Kansas basketball program. Are they back? Are you excited? What are you excited to see? Obviously, I think most people are going to say Darren Peterson just because of the hype around him. I appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I end every video the exact same way. Have a good day.